Hello, hello, everyone. Today is September 12th, 2022. Wow, this is a recorded steering meeting. This is a public steering meeting. This will be recorded and available on YouTube later. So please be mindful of what you say and do. Please be sure to adhere to the Kubernetes Code of Conduct. And in general, that boils down to just being awesome people. So we've got a pretty light agenda today. I know that we've got a few people who are around traveling to conferences, prepping, recovering from other ones. I'm currently in Dublin for Open Source Summit, as well as some of our other open source compatriots. So getting into some of the CNCF updates, I think the big one right now is KubeCon is coming up, maintainer updates. So for folks who are SIG chairs, technical leads, folks that intend to provide updates on their governance group, please be sure that you're working on those updates for your presentations. There are also some opportunities to present things that are happening within the Kubernetes community on the big stage for your familiar maybe now around the CNCF project updates, as well as the Kubernetes project updates that happen for the keynotes. So if you're interested in providing some updates there, please let us know. Drop us a note or reply to the emails that are, I believe Cody sent out a few days ago. Christoph, I noticed that your hand was raised.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest, I see some folks that are dropping updates in here. Probably the best thing to do instead of that is there's an email that went out to leads@kubernetes.io from Cody. Replying to that, following the instructions there, that's the best way to kind of get that information into the right hands.
What Christoph said. All right. So I see one of them is Kate's GCR.io to registry.kates.io. I believe some of
Is there a time frame for when we want to have those gathered? Like, I assume there is, but do we know what that is?
I would say before the end of the month would be great.
Okay.
I know that is soft deadline for keynote updates, at least. So I would say to give the co-chairs time to integrate that into their presentations, I would do before the end of the month. There we go. September 23rd. Thank you, Arno.
Yeah, there's a survey and stuff in there as well to provide that information. But yeah, September 23rd.
Sweet. All right. Anything else that we want to mention for CNCF updates? DIMS, maybe anything falling out of TOC, GB stuff?
No, nothing specific. I can't think of anything that we want to give a. No, sorry.
No, all good.
If I think of something, I'll send an email out and let you all know too.
I think one sort of general thing, we are at least now seeing a lot more projects starting to have sort of the growing pains.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Right. So right now I have 4 issues opened for health checks of different projects. HCD for sure, and they were
Brigade and someone else, right?
Cortex.
Yeah.
Cortex. Is it worthwhile? Do we want to dig deeper within our SIGs? I know that there's some conversation already happening on the etcd front and with the API machinery folks getting involved. Does it make sense to ping the SIG app folks maybe for Brigade and others?
We can try for sure. Okay. I think one of the things that I for the last like 2-3 weeks, I ended up pointing out our annual reports, both the 2020 and 21, to a bunch of people. So I think I don't know if anything will come out of it, but that is a good resource. So we should try to continue to do it next year too.
I know in addition to the other happenings around the etcd maintainership, there's also been a thread around single cluster reliability. It's a pretty big thread. There are lots of folks involved. This is coming down to like the Raft implementation within etcd. Jordan, I think you're over some of that. I don't know if you want to speak to a bit of it.
I mean, Marek brought it up, kind of escalated it, and actually several of the etcd maintainers, past maintainers, jumped in and said, I had no idea this was like a thing and an issue. This isn't a known issue to me. I did not expect this. And so I think that helped get traction around like actually fixing it instead of just documenting it. So this was in single node etcd clusters. There was one stage of committing rights that did not go through the same code path as multi-node etcd clusters. And so if you had a local disk crash, you could basically put a single node cluster into an unrecoverable state if the disk crashed at exactly the right time. Or I don't know if it was unrecoverable or it would lose something that it had replied as a committed right. Anyway, the technical details are not important. The issue is it was not well communicated, it was not well understood. And so this is an example of the type of sort of quality, reliability issue within etcd that we would want to have better visibility to and better communication of and better representation from downstreams who are sort of building on this as a foundation and not realizing the current state. So it's communication in both directions, from etcd to the people building on it saying, this is the current state, build on it appropriately. And then communication the other direction to say, actually, we've already built skyscrapers on this. It would be awesome if like this foundation behaved the way everybody building on it thought it did. So, so that ended up happening, but it took longer than I think it should have to kind of get the two-way communication going.
I feel like it's still happening too. There's some fixes to happen in the Raft implementation, if I saw the thread correctly. Right?
The fix is ongoing, like it's actively being worked on, and I think there's agreement on taking some form of it back to the 3.4 and 3.5 versions that are in use, which is good. So this particular issue, I think, is in a good state. It's moving forward. I'm more interested in like, what about the next issue? How can we close that communication loop more quickly and more reliably?
Life is like a box of chocolates, right, Jordan?
I had a great quote someone shared with me this week. It's like, that hill you're trying to reach the top of is the horizon. You will not reach it. The question is like, how are you going to improve the way you're running? I thought that's profound and depressing, but
I do want to pick on one more thread there, Jordan, which is, has the API machinery talked about externalizing or putting an interface around it to see if, you know, the age-old question?
I have seen conversations happening. I don't remember if they happened in an API machinery meeting or in Slack. I think the concern is that an interface that fragments doesn't actually do anything to help all existing users who are already on etcd. And so that's the main sort of conclusion most of the discussions I've seen have reached.
And it might just create more problems than it solves.
Yeah, if we divide the energy and don't have a migration path for people, we've actually made all our existing users' lives worse.
Yeah, for sure.
Christoph, I noticed your hand is still up. Is that from the previous comment or?
No. So one other thought that comes to mind here, like I would like to think that we are pretty good about this, but when I think about like foundational components and that kind of stuff, yes, we build on top of etcd, but there is a lot of downstream consumers of us that also build on top of us. And one kind of angle that at least I'm thinking about here is as we have seen and experienced over the last, couple of years and that kind of stuff, when we communicate about issues in our product, is there things that we can learn and things that we can do better going forward, not just analyzing like, for example, I'm talking about like Docker shim deprecation and that kind of stuff. Like we're analyzing our own instance and how we can communicate better about the things that we do. We should also kind of keep in mind these other discussions that are going on. Look, if there's ways that, again, we can learn from others as well about how to communicate better about things, because recognizing that etcd is a foundational component for us, but we are also a foundational component for so many others, not just operators that are building on top of Kubernetes, but other people that are building other open source projects and stuff on top of us.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, in terms of the communication that I've seen for the 125 release, and the kind of the uptick in like release blogs around not just feature sets, but like a bit more focus around the easy to miss things, the things that are foundational components, the things that are infrastructure related. I think the team has gotten better at it, definitely. At least not to pat my own team on the back, but I think definitely this cycle, and I mean really building up over the last few cycles, we've gotten a lot tighter about talking about non-feature changes and things that are kind of core community concerns. So I think we keep up the steam. And if we see that this is, especially the etcd stuff, if we see that this is bubbling into something that is affecting, Kubernetes operators, then it's something that we should absolutely highlight when we. I don't think we should ever take for granted that, when we say words, people listen, and that may be the exact kind of, effect that smaller projects within our ecosystem need. They might need that loud speaker mega horn that the Kubernetes project is able to provide. So if we can figure out where those paths are, like etcd is definitely one of them, right? But like building applications on top of Kubernetes and these, I mean, so much in the CNCF ecosystem is either based on Kubernetes or some sort of their governance models or just the way they do business is built off of some of our principles. So it would be good to make sure that we are doing our best to take care of them where possible.
So one thing, I agree with you there, Stephen. One thing I think we probably haven't done yet is like the various installers of Kubernetes, right? Some of like even Cluster API has a specific pattern in which they use etcd, right? So we need to kind of like figure out who are the popular installers, what kind of patterns do they use, and then make targeted approach to, hey, if you're using 3-node etcd stuff, don't worry about it. We know that we have to talk to the other set of people who are using single node, or something is a default, something is not a default, right? So
exactly,
we have to do some more of that. I think right now we are just throwing it into the void and saying, hey, etcd broken kind of thing. Instead of that, we should like have a handshake with these people to see if we can do that better, roll things out better.
Yeah, that reminds me of some of the sweeps we've started doing when we're making changes in Kubernetes. We used to just say, like, does this fall within our deprecation policy or our change policy? Like, it does? Awesome. Ship it. And now we will actually like go, search GitHub for callers of this thing and go and open like 50 issues in repos and say, like, we noticed you're using this thing that is not correct and will change in like 2 releases. Here's what you can do instead. Like, being very proactive in identifying use. It's not perfect, like it doesn't catch private use, but we can at least, do what we can to identify it. And sometimes that actually changed our plans. Like, even though we would be within our rights to like make a change, we could really help people and therefore help ourselves by doing this more gradually, more safely.
PSPs, right? Exhibit A.
Yeah, PSPs and token expiration inside pods. Like we jumped through a lot of hoops to do this as non-disruptively as possible.
Awesome. So any other
Just to close the loop on what you said, Dims, is that like a request for the current etcd issue to not just say like, here's an issue, but like maybe check the public installers we know of and say like, what would we specifically recommend you do?
I think we should ask the people who are installing etcd by default in various places to like register themselves somehow with the etcd folks. So the outgoing, so the people maintaining etcd can send out communications better, targeted communications better based on patterns of usage.
Do they have a like security distribution list? Because that might be at least a good starting point.
Yeah, security, but this is not really.
I think that's, yeah, maybe not the right venue exactly.
So like that's going to be the big people that'll be impacted. So like
fair, yeah.
You're right. Yeah, we can reuse the thing from there, but it doesn't capture. It captures the who, but not how they use etcd, right?
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments on this before we roll on? Okay. All right. So I am not seeing any votes. Are there any other CNCF updates that people would like to mention before we head into topics?
PyTorch joined.
PyTorch, yes.
Yeah, this morning, and they had a quote about Kubernetes there in there too. So
I'm sorry, I missed what you said. Could you?
Oh yes, Jordan. This morning there was an announcement from Linux Foundation that PyTorch Foundation has joined as foundation under Linux Foundation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they called out Kubernetes in there too.
Dun, 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 dun. Here is announcement. Keep that up on the screen for a sec. All right, Jordan got it. Awesome. All right. I believe there will be a bunch of announcements this week for Open Source Summit. I know that there are a few coming down the pike for OpenSSF and OpenSSF Day. That's something near and dear to my heart. But I won't ruin any of the surprises. All right, topics. We've only got a few. But first up, the steering committee elections are underway. If you are a voter, you should have received information about signing into Electo and being able to cast your vote. In Electo, you will also find not just your ballot, but also information which you can also find in the Kubernetes community repo for the voter profiles. But that is also available on Electo. You can read about each of the candidates and make very well-informed decisions for the usher in the next three folks to join the steering committee. So please, if you are a voter, make sure that you prioritize taking some time to do the votes. It's super quick. It's not intensive at all. If you are not a voter, please take a look at the voter requirements for the next go around and make sure that you are working towards being eligible to vote next time around. Dims, you were actually one of the election officers, so I will stop yapping and let you fill in some color if I missed anything.
So over the weekend we got 5 requests for hey, I'm not on the list, can you please add me? And we kind of like granted 4 of them. So we are not seeing too much. I think when we looked at the number of people, I think it was like 80 people voted on Thursday. I'll go back and check, probably middle of the week to see how many have voted. We might have to like go tell more people.
Shake it, yeah.
Yeah, shake the trees to do this for sure. But from the point of view, like the back end and everything is going fine. We had new election officers step up this time, so there was a little bit of hey, we missed one thing here and we missed one thing there, but folks like Jordan caught a few of those too. So thanks, Jordan. So from the comms perspective, we are doing fine. It's just that I don't know how else to twist people's arms to go vote.
All right, so if you're hearing this later, go vote. Like right now, stop the recording, go vote.
It literally takes less than a minute.
Exactly, yeah.
So on the CNCF side, I think I missed a couple of updates. This isn't come out. It's not announced or anything like that, but there is a
Do
bunch
we want to?
Yeah, I'll just give you the overall.
Okay, all right.
They are doing like two specific things around community safety and trust, which was literally driven by some of us going there and saying, hey, we need to do better. So there's like crisis communication stuff that they are trying to do, and they're also trying to do some proactive things as well. I am hoping that they'll announce it in KubeCon, if not before. So watch out for that, because that was literally driven by folks from Kubernetes.
Thank you, folks who worked on that. Yeah, we're often the flag bearers for a lot of this stuff. So I think maybe if you see something, say something is oversimplifying, but a lot of the things that we do turn into initiatives like this. So please, when you have the opportunity to provide input on improvements for not just our community, but the wider CNCF and wider LF communities, please let us know. All right. Sponsor developer programs. Arnaud, I know you dropped some notes in here. Do you want to speak to that?
Yep. Hi, everyone. So this is not a new subject per se. Like we brought this, I think there was a conversation about this during the public meeting of May. And this request came through Minikube about basically buy a developer program for Apple. But this is more like my release manager at coming and ask about basically how CNCF can sponsor a developer program for Mac OS X and Microsoft Windows. Because this conversation came during last SIG release about how we handle signature for those operating system. So I'm curious about what's the updates or what's the policy about this?
I don't currently have any updates. I know that is on my plate. I know that at least from the SIG release perspective, that we're doing some investigation on the not on the Mac OS side, but on the devs and RPM side for community packages. I know that there is like Minikube is also one of the projects that come to us and ask if it's possible to kind of like be within the official stream for those packages at least. The developer program, I believe, still requires some investigation because it's not clear exactly how one does a group account for it.
So there's like, I think we talked about it during this last SIG release meeting. There definitely some limitation about basically group signature. So this is more like about the financial aspect of artifact signature, how basically if we get a consensus about how we implement that with some specific tooling, how we get access to those accounts. Like, is CNCF supposed to pay for this? Someone's supposed to pay for this? Like, okay.
Yeah. To Dim's point in chat, money is not necessarily the issue here. It is I think it is, and potentially an impediment of the functionality in general, right? Like how to do, I think there's an assumption that it is a single user process where I have to imagine that can't be the case. Like, there can't be enterprises letting out signed binaries on someone's laptop or something. Tim's in the chat is saying that Paris is trying to dig into it for Mac OS from the Apple
Okay.
side. So I will sync up with Paris and see what the latest is, and then we'll provide some updates on that issue.
Okay, Mo, this is just the issues about Apple. I will open an issue about Microsoft and try to tie this up in the umbrella issue, trying to basically figure out how we can handle that for Microsoft and Apple at the same time and see what's happening. I think the issue about one individual sign, we can kind of handle that with Secret Manager, 1Password, stuff like that. Basically have like a vault where we can put those account password and share between individuals about signature.
Yeah. So yeah, eventually there will be, I mean, once we understand how it works, if it is tantamount to like this needs to be a service account, system account, a bot user, what have you, then yeah, the appropriate people will be authorized and have access to that vault. I imagine that we'll probably have to do multiple ones. I see that what we would consider like the canonical artifacts for the project versus sub-project artifacts. Those I imagine would be handled as separate cases. I'm imagining with my SIG release hat on. I think one of the blockers for doing things like adding the Minikube packages to Deb and RPM streams, for example, is that we don't have the process nailed down for Debs and RPMs in general, right? And there is an active danger in introducing more SKU into that process. So until we nail that down, and SIG release is looking at doing proof of concept with open build service right now for devs and RPMs to transition that over. Arno, I'm preaching to the choir because you're involved in some of it. But once we nail down the process for the canonical artifacts, the next bit will be saying, okay, well, so I have an ISV account from the open build service folks. We'll spin off a POC sub-project for that. And I think as we get that flow down for our canonical artifacts, then it'll say like, okay, this is something that we can potentially open up to sub-projects, and we can spin things off of that, assuming that open build service is the thing that we end up going with on the dev and RPM side. For the Windows side and for the Mac OS side, I think, yeah, I personally have not started to explore the Windows side. The artifacts that we are publishing for Windows currently are likely in the unsigned state, and I know there's a separate build process for that as well, build and sign process for that. So it is on our roadmap, like hand waves on our roadmap. But yeah, there's definitely more investigation to be done. Yeah.
For signing stuff specifically, like it's not just like a philosophical, we don't want to add more places where individuals are in the pipeline kind of thing. Like a lot of what the considerations around code signing is around revocation. And so if the signatures on the artifacts we're shipping as project artifacts are tied to individuals' accounts, then like, that account goes inactive, or like, a credit card gets stolen and like an account gets flagged as whatever. And it's like accidents happen, and we don't want an individual's actions 2 or 3 years from now to accidentally result in like, oh, all Kubernetes artifacts from the past 5 years are viruses and have had their certificates revoked.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, the upside is right now we're not signing
Sorry,
at all. So
Stephen.
Sorry, yeah.
Can I jump in? I've had my hand up for a couple minutes here. I'm looking to jump in. Yeah,
go for it.
The concerns that Jordan raised, 100%. That's one of it. It's also making sure that specifically when we're going into developer programs, so like Apple's developer program, there's a that's a contract that is being signed with Apple and has obligations that the entity that's signing it, if that is the CNCF, that the CNCF has to ensure are happening to meet their legal obligations to Apple because it is a contract. So the money here isn't the issue at all. The stickier part of a problem like this is the legal side of it and making sure that all of those parts, making sure that our obligations to Apple are being met to participate in that developer program, or if we need changes to the contract that we're signing with Apple, like making that happen. And that would be the same for any other developer program that we're going into, whether that's like Windows code sign or that kind of stuff. When we're dealing with dev RPMs, that's something different, but because we're only asserting our own identity there. We're not entering into a contract or something to be able to assign dev and RPMs. The one thing that I would suggest though, Arno, is I would not, at least from the steering side, I would not lump these into umbrella issues. Umbrella issues, big issues that have multiple moving components, individual components of them can get lost fairly easily. If Kate's Infra wants to have an umbrella issue that links out to these specific asks from steering, like the Apple Developer Program one, that's totally okay. But if there's other specific individual asks, like, hey, we want to participate in X or Y developer program, I would suggest that we open separate individual issues for those, because they will likely move at different speeds based on the legal stuff and how the legal stuff moves forward. So I would suggest keeping the Apple one specific to Apple. So hopefully we can have a clear reference point that other folks, like when we're engaging folks at the CNCF or LF or anything like that, that it's okay, this is specific to our Apple Developer Program issue, and any others that folks are asking for us to participate in.
Okay, so from what everything got said here, like my understanding is steering need to reach out to CNCF about legal compliance for, let's say, macOS, for, let's say, Apple Developer Program and Microsoft Developer Program, and get back to us before we move forward with this? Or
so for the Apple Developer Program one specifically, yes, we've got an issue that's on our radar. We have talked to a number of folks, like Paris has followed up on it. Steven's been talking about it. Like we've got multiple actions in progress there. For any others, like I don't have any, I don't think we have, or at least I haven't seen any issues specific to a Microsoft Developer Program or like Windows code signing that we would want to do or participate in. So if there's an ask there from some group, whether it's Kate's Infra or some other group that's coming to Kate's Infra, yes, we would need specific details of what is being asked for so that we can investigate it. Obviously, we have, friends and colleagues over at Microsoft that we can do similar things to what we're doing with our friends and colleagues at Apple.
okay.
And if the Windows, the signing stuff is starting to bubble up into conversation, please, let's continue to have some discussion in SIG release, because ultimately that will be part of our build pipeline.
Well, the Microsoft Sean came out from a SIG release meeting.
Can it just go on the issue, and we'll keep that I'll go in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Can I have
Sure.
30 seconds? So this just triggered something in my mind that me and Arnold should have brought up before, but we haven't. So we did a POC for Cloudflare for binaries. And because of the stuff that was happening with Cloudflare and Kiwi Forms, we kind of like put it on ice for now. We probably have to go do a POC for some other provider because we don't feel
It's-
comfortable on how they conduct their business, etc. So we thought we should let you know that POC is on ice for now.
I had kind of assumed that it was frozen, but yeah, we should toss up some alternatives there. But overall, I mean, outside of that, it sounds like the registry stuff is moving forward nicely, right?
My take on this is to completely drop Cloudflare, but the problem we have right now is we ultimately want to use the CDN provider, and we failed to reach out to Fastly about this. Like I tried, 3 times to reach out to them, and I got no answer for them. So through the open source program, so I'm trying to find a way to reach out to them and say, we are an open source program. We want to basically use Fastly for artifact distribution. So I think this is like a request, please. If you have a contact in Fastly, ping me, drop me the contact. I can talk to them about this. Because for my personal take on this is to basically move away from Cloudflare and tell them we are not going to continue business with them.
We don't have to tell them anything, Arno. We just have to start.
Just don't use them. Yeah.
Exactly. And the contact that we were talking to is moved on from Cloudflare too, so we really don't need to do anything on Cloudflare side.
Okay.
So I think I pinged Chris once. He hasn't responded, so I'll ping him again this week to get us a contact, introduction through email to you and a contact in Fastly who can help. Okay.
Okay. Chris, stuff assistant rates.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like another possibility, like I remember a previous point that we talked about this, we kind of outlined a list of what our requirements are, or we requested that a list of our requirements be outlined. If we're kind of back to a vendor selection POC kind of stage, I'm wondering if we should take that list of requirements and bring it to the CNCF or the GB and see if there's anyone else who are involved at that level who might be willing to extend us CDN services.
We kind of know what we want. It's just that how do we do it using their UI, using their CLI is basically the question. So, and what we are trying to do here is like do the POC, validate that what we need works, and it works the way we would like, and then we write up a thing to take it wherever else we need to take it to. It could be the CNCF, through a service desk ticket, and if the money is not enough there, then we escalate it to GB.
I'm wondering in particular, like if we have requirements for a service, if there is somebody at the CNCF, like there's I forget what it was called, but there's basically like the cloud credits infrastructure support, whatever kind of program that the CNCF was doing. Even outside of that particular thing, going and talking to the CNCF, because there are other, what I know is that there are other folks at the CNCF level, including folks that sit on the GB who operate CDNs at a global scale beyond just Google, which was our current infrastructure provider. So because there's two parts to anything like this, it's the cost. The cost to us, the cost to the CNCF. That's one aspect, and then the other is the technical. And if we have outlines of what our technical requirements are, like how we need to interact with the CDN, what kind of numbers we're looking at pushing through it, all of that kind of stuff. If we go to folks and say like, it might be one extra step that we could do as opposed to presupposing to a specific vendor that we're already kind of like shooting for. Say, hey, is there anybody out there that is able to support our requirements? Come talk to us. Because I know I'm looking at the CNCF membership page right now. I know there's other companies that operate CDNs and that kind of stuff that we could potentially ask for. Because the money part and the technical part, I don't know if the technical part, they'll be able to match our requirements. But from a money part, they might be willing to donate or support us with some of those services.
Yeah, I would say like, you know, any POC like outside of just identifying the technical requirements, to Christoph's point, getting a list of potential vendors once you have those technical requirements. It does sound like we were like, okay, Cloudflare, let's do it. But getting that list together, because like all of us have the potential to reach arms into CNCF, LF, OpenSSF, so on and so forth, to have these conversations. So.
Sorry, one data point also here is the cloud provider stuff is not yet real. There is a meeting next week or whenever, I think this week, where the Google person is wanting to meet with Priyanka and Hippie Hacker and Chris A. So I'll let you know when I hear, you know, if something comes out of that. Arun was also invited for that meeting.
You say the cloud provider stuff, just for the notes.
The
Cloud credits program.
Cloud credit programs. Yeah.
Christoph, was your hand up from the last time, or? Okay.
Yeah, thanks for double checking.
Yeah, just want to add, like we have just one technical requirement for specifically for CDN, and when I did the investigation, the company's part of the governance board were not meeting that requirement. So it's like a technical one. I don't know if I need to go in detail about this. Basically, Google has a partnership with specific cloud CDN providers, and that's all technical requirement. So if we want to basically pick a CDN provider, this provider need to be in partnership with Google. I can find the list of that list somewhere.
And that list is not necessarily going to be fully public. So let's, I think this is a good place to tap our contacts, because there might be things in the works in the background that we're not aware of just yet.
Yeah, so I'll put the list of the partner in the chat. Like that's why we went for Cloudflare and Fastly, because they are part of that program. And that program is very specific because it gives us a huge discount about network traffic. So we were like, okay, let's pick Cloudflare and Fastly and see how this is happening. Also, Fastly has like a partnership with Linux Foundation, because they basically host the kernel side and they distribute the Linux kernel. So I was hoping through CNCF we can reach out to Linux Foundation about this, but I didn't hear about anyone since I talked to people about this. So,
and this was because the current hosting is through GCR.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was the question? I'm trying to figure out if there's an AI or specific question I can sick Bob on.
Let's say, can we basically talk to Linux Foundation about the Fastly, about how they get the contract with Fastly?
So let's maybe tweak that a little bit, right? So like if we know that these are the only providers that are like, if it is true that these are the only providers that will give us the kind of will satisfy the requirements, then I would imagine that the next step is, do we have contacts at these providers? And then we start tapping the network. So
Okay.
between like, if our technical, so from the Kate's Infra side, if our technical requirements are clear and they're documented somewhere that we can hand off, and if it is really just that CDN interconnect page, then we've got the list of providers, and then from there, steering to tap networks.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so end of meeting. We are at the end of the meeting. Are there any topics of interest for either the next steering committee meeting or with the time that we have left? I know there's some stuff up top.
I don't know how up to date that list is.
Yeah, this is all either in flight or done. So for in between this meeting and next, I will clean up the remaining topics here.
I had one. I think I was supposed to transfer Google SC1 to Steven, and I forgot to do that. Like, so we'll figure out, like, you're in Dublin now. When you come back, we'll get that started. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. This is not quite a topic, don't think. Cool. All right, now if my calendar is correct, someone correct me if I'm wrong, the next meeting is next week, private session, right?
Yes.
I think we had a skew of 1 week for
It's the
US
holiday.
Labor Day, right? So next week, I have signed up for the public and private session for September, but it would be good to get Bosun for October. If someone wants to take both sessions, if someone wants to take one, we've also got KubeCon coming up, so I'm not sure if
we need to look
sessions-
at the schedule for that one and figure out what we're doing in October, because it's also election time, so there'll be changeover.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That does the date look all right? You know, private announcement to SE members not up for election. That's a 30th, and then there is a October 2nd to candidates, October 3rd at the next public steering meeting. So we do have something already scheduled for October 3rd public meeting.
All right, let's see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Third.
Yeah, that seems fine to me.
Yeah,
That looks good.
I think it's fine.
Then the other one, follow up to that is you all need to figure out about KubeCon activities, with the new folks that will come up.
I'd say let's take that to Slack.
Yeah.
And that also might change anyway, depending on the people that are elected.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so then Bosun for those meetings, if based on who's going to still be here in October, I think it's probably if Steven doesn't want to do back-to-back, it might be up to you and me, Bob, to rock, paper, scissors for who takes October.
Okay, I can definitely take the first one. Don't know about the second one because I'm up for election.
Fair enough. Okay, maybe
so let's take it
I'll just stick my hand up and volunteer to take
it.
Follow the sword.
All right.
I can at least take the third. But
I'll volunteer to take both.
Okay.
Because the election results will be out before the third, so we'll know answer. So I'll put my hand up. I'll take October based on being here and being one of the holdovers.
Cool.
Thank you, Christoph. All right. So thank you everyone for the time. Thank you for hanging out with us. See you at the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Later.
Cheers all.